Hello, my name is Mayanka. I am accounts and finance trainer from Uplatz. Today we will discuss one of the important topic of salary. We will discuss gratuity. What is the meaning of gratuity? And we will discuss the taxability and the exemption which are relating to the gratuity. First, we will discuss what is the gratuity and taxation of gratuity. In this class, we will discuss taxation of gratuity. Taxation of gratuity. So now we will start our class. Gratuity. Gratuity is a payment. Gratuity is a payment which is made by the employer. The gratuity is a payment which is made by the employer in the respect of, in appropriation of service which is rendered by the employee. In the case of salary head, all the amount will be taxable if there is the employer and employee relationship. In the head of salary, only those amount will be taxable when the employer and employee relationship is there. So in the case of gratuity, when the gratuity is an amount which is given by the employer to the employee in the appreciation of the service. It is given by the employer to the employee. So such amount will be taxable under the head of salary. So the amount of the gratuity will be taxable under the head of salary. Gratuity is an amount. It is a voluntary payment. It is not mandatory payment. It is a voluntary payment which is made by the employer. It is made by the employer to the employee in appreciation of the services which are rendered by the employee. So this is nothing. This is only a payment which is made by the employer to the employee. So in this case, there is the relationship between two persons. There is a relationship of employer and employee. So such amount will be taxable under the head of salary. So such amount will be taxable under the head of salary. Under the head of salary. So normally the gratuity is a voluntary payment. Nowadays, gratuity has become a normal payment applicable to the all employees. Nowadays, normally such amount is paid by all the employees. All the employees. As per the provision of Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, as per the provision of Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, it contains all the statutory requirement. Means Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 contain all the provision of gratuity. Means Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 contain the provisions of gratuity. So this is one of the important act of gratuity. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. This is the main act of gratuity. In fact, Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 is a statutory recognition of the concept of gratuity. All the provisions relating to the gratuity are in the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. In the case of gratuity, there is an agreement between employer and employee. Mostly, all of the employer entered into an agreement with the employer to pay the amount of gratuity. Is that for the payment of gratuity or in the respect of gratuity, there should be there is a agreement which is made by the employer and employee. Means the employer entered into an agreement with the employee to pay the amount of gratuity. So the gratuity So the gratuity is a voluntary payment which is made by the employer to the employee. And the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 contained all the provision relating to the gratuity. And there is the relationship of employer and the employee. So such amount will be taxable under the head of salary. Under the head of salary. But such amount will not be fully taxable. Such amount will not be fully taxable. There are certain exemptions. There are certain exemptions. So now we will discuss exemption. Now we will discuss exemption in the respect of gratuity. The total amount of gratuity will not be taxable. The total amount of gratuity which is received by the employee from the employer will not be fully taxable. There are certain exemptions. So now we will discuss exemptions. So now we will discuss exemption. Section 10, subsection 10. We will discuss section 10, subsection 10, exemption in the respect of gratuity. Number 1, the amount of the gratuity. The amount of the gratuity which is received means if there is any gratuity which is received at the time of retirement, means retirement gratuity. If there is any gratuity which is received at the time of retirement, which is known as retirement gratuity. The retirement gratuity received under the pension code or regulation applicable to the member of the defense service. If there is any amount of the gratuity which is received at the time of retirement, means if there is any retirement gratuity received under the pension code or regulation which is applicable to the defense service, means if there is any retirement gratuity received by the member of defense service, then such amount of gratuity will be fully exempted. If there is any retirement gratuity received by the member of defense service, then it will be fully exempted. It will be fully exempted. Number 2, employee of central government, members of civil service and local authority employees. In the case of member of defense service, the retirement gratuity which is received under the pension code or regulation, then it will be exempted. Number 1 point is the member of defense services, means number 1 point is retirement gratuity. It should be retirement gratuity. Number 2, under the pension code or the regulation, under the pension code and the regulation, and it is received by the member of defense service. Number 3rd point is it is received by the member of defense service, then it will be accepted. Second point, employee of central government, member of civil service or local authority member. In the case of employee of central government, in the case of member of civil service, or in the case of local authority employee, any death come retirement gratuity, then such gratuity will be fully exempted under section 10, subsection 10, clause 1. Is that if there is any amount of death come retirement gratuity is received by the any of the employer of central government, any of the member of civil service, or any of the member of local authority employee, then such amount of such that come retirement gratuity will be fully exempted. It will be fully exempted from tax. It will be fully exempted from the tax. It will be fully exempted from the tax. For the example, first we will discuss, first point is the member is the member is the member of defense service. The member, if there is any member who is the defense service and he receive the amount of, number one point is member of defense service and he receive retirement gratuity. He receive retirement gratuity. If he receive retirement gratuity under the pension code and regulation. If there is the member of defense service, he receive any gratuity, retirement gratuity under the pension code or regulation, then such amount will be exempted. Then it will be, then such amount will be exempted. Then such amount will be exempted. Then such amount will be exempted. If it is received by the member of defense, then such amount will be exempted as per the point 1. And number 2, if number 2, the employee of central government, employee of central government, employee of local authority, employee of local authority, and number 3 is employee of civil services. If there is any employee, if there is any employee of central government, there is any employee of local authority, or there is any member or employee of civil services, and such a person receive the death cum retirement gratuity. Death cum retirement gratuity. Death cum retirement gratuity, then such gratuity will be exempted under section 10, subsection 10 1. Then it will be exempted. Then it will be exempted if there is any employee of central government, employee of local authority, employee of civil services, and he receive that cum retirement gratuity, that cum retirement gratuity, then such gratuity will be exempted. Then such gratuity will be exempted under section 10, subsection 10 1. Under section 10, subsection 10 1, it will be exempted. It will be exempted, fully exempted. Number 3, in the case of other employees. Now we will discuss the exemption provision in the respect of other employees. What will be the treatment or what will be the amount of exemption in the case of other employees? The employee of defense service covered by us in first point. The employee of central government, the employee of civil service, and the employee of local authority is covered in point 2. Now we will discuss the exemption in the respect of other employees. Number 1, the employees who are covered by the Payment of Gratuity Act. The employee who are covered by the Payment of Gratuity Act in 1972. the employee who are covered by the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. Any employee who is covered by Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 and he receive any amount of that come gratuity, that come retirement gratuity, then it will be exempted but extend to the certain limit. If there is any employee who is covered by Payment of Gratuity Act, if there is any employee who is covered by Payment of Gratuity Act and he received any sum of that come retirement gratuity, if he receive any sum of that come retirement gratuity, then such amount will be taxable. Sorry, it will be exempted. It will be exempted, but to the extent of certain limit. The limits are the limits are number one, 20 lakh rupees. Number one, 20 lakh rupees or gratuity which is actually received. The gratuity which is actually received. The amount of gratuity which is actually received. And number third point is 15 days salary. 15 days salary on the basis of last drawn salary. 15 days salary on the basis of last drawn salary for each completed year, for the each completed year of service, for the each completed year of the service or part thereof, in excess of 6 months. In excess of 6 months means 15 days salary which is based on last drawn salary for each completed year of service or part thereof in the excess of 6 months. In the excess of 6 months. Is that if there is any person, if there is any employee who is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act, who is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 and he receive any sum as death come retirement gratuity, then such amount will be exempted, and it will be exempt as least of the following, means least of the following amount will be exempt. Number one, 20 lakh rupees. Number two, gratuity which is actually received. And number three, 15 days salary, which is based on last drawn salary for each completed year of service or part thereof in excess of 6 months. Whichever is lower will be exempted. Whichever is lower, which amount is lower, then it will be exempted, and the balance amount will be taxable. And the balance amount will be taxable. Note, salary for this purpose means basic salary plus DNS allowance. Salary for the purpose of this means for the purpose of third point, the salary will be basic salary plus DNS allowance. And the number of days in the month for this purpose, and the number of days for this purpose in the month is 26. We will take 26 days when we calculate point C. When we calculate point C. So we will discuss it by example. If there is a employee other than government employee, other than point 1 and 2, other than point 1 and other than point 2 means he is not the employee of defense service, he is not the employee of central government, he is not the employee of a local authority, and he is not the employee of civil service. He is a employee and which is covered under Payment of Gratuity Act. Gratuity Act 1972, he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. Then he received that come retirement gratuity. Death come retirement gratuity. He received death come retirement gratuity. Then the exempted amount will be ex, then the exempted exempted amount will be the exempted amount will be number one number one 20 lakh, number two gratuity received, and number three 15 days of salary on the basis of last drawn salary for each for each completed year or part thereof or part thereof, whichever is whichever is lower whichever is lower is that when we calculate the exempted amount of gratuity, when we calculate the exempted amount of gratuity, then the exempted amount of the gratuity will be least of these three, least of these three. 20 lakh rupees, 20 lakh rupees, and number two gratuity receipt, amount of gratuity which is received, and number three 15 days salary, 15 days salary on the basis of last draw for each of the completed year, for each of the completed year or part thereof, whichever is lower will be will be exempted, will be exempted, it will be exempted. So it will be exempted means on the basis of this, we will calculate on the basis of these 3 points, we will calculate the amount which will be exempted. Now, in the first point, we have covered the person who are covered, the employee who are covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. Under the Payment of Gratuity Act. And now we will discuss the employee who is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. Under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, the employee who is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. If there is any employee who is not covered under the or by the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972 and he has received the death cum retirement gratuity and he has received death cum retirement gratuity on his retirement or he become incapable prior to the retirement or such amount is received before the retirement due to the incapability or due to any termination, when there is any employee who is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, he receives any amount of death cum retirement gratuity. Such amount is received by him on his retirement or before the retirement, on his retirement or before the retirement, or such amount is received by or such amount is received by his widow or by his children or by any of the dependent person or by any of the dependent person, then such amount of gratuity will be exempted, but to the extent of limit, if there is any employee who is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. Who is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act? Receive any amount as that come retirement gratuity on the date of his retirement or before the retirement, or such amount of gratuity is received by his widow, his children, or any other legal representative, or his any of the dependent, then such amount will be exempted. Then such amount will be exempted, but least of the following. The exempted amount will be calculated on the basis of these 3 points, and which will be least of the following. Then which amount is least, it will be exempt. Number one, 20 lakh rupees. Number two, gratuity amount which is actually received. And number three, half month salary. Half a month salary based on the last 10 month average salary. Based on the last 10 month average salary for each of the completed year. For each of the completed year, half month salary, which is based on last 10 month average salary, immediately preceding the month of retirement of debt, for each completed year of service. For each completed year of service. In the first point, same, but the third point is different. There is 15 days salary and there is a half month salary. Note, salary for the purpose of this, basic salary plus DNS allowance. Basic salary plus DNS allowance. If provided in the term of employment for the retirement benefits, forming part of salary and commission, which is expressed as fixed percentage of turnover. So, for the purpose of this, for the purpose of point 3, the amount of salary will be basic salary plus DNS allowance. Basic salary plus DNS allowance. So, the limit exemption limit will be calculated 20 lakh, actual amount of gratuity received, or half month of the salary for each of the completed year, whichever is lower. Whichever is lower. For the example, just like if there is any employee who is not covered under Payment of Gratuity Act. Payment of Gratuity Act, he is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. And he received death cum retirement gratuity. And he received death cum retirement gratuity, then the exemption amount will be number one, 20 lakh. It will be 20 lakh. And number two, gratuity received. Gratuity received. And number three, half a month of salary. Half a month of salary on the basis of last 10 month average salary for each of the completed year. So the amount is whichever is lower. Whichever is lower means if there is any employee who is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act and he has received any death cum retirement gratuity. If he receive any death cum retirement gratuity, then the exempted amount will be, then the exempted amount will be 20 lakh rupees, 20 lakh rupees, or the amount of gratuity received, the amount of gratuity received. And number third point is half month of salary, half month of salary for each of the completed year, for each of the completed year, whichever is lower. In these 3 points, which amount will be lower, we will be calculate, or we will be considered it as, we will be considered it as exempted amount of gratuity. We will be considered it as exempted amount of gratuity. It will be considered as an exempted amount of gratuity. So, for the purpose of this, first we will discuss the payment of gratuity. Sorry, the topic of gratuity, the point of gratuity in a summarized form. In a summarized form, so that we can understand such point by a chart easily. We can understand it by a graph. Gratuity. If it is received during the service, if the amount of the gratuity is received during the service, if the amount of gratuity is received during the service, then it will be fully taxable. If it is received during the service, then it will be fully taxable. Number two, if it is received at the time of death or at the time of retirement. If the amount of gratuity is received at the time of death or at the time of retirement, then the amount of gratuity, then the amount of gratuity will be, the taxable amount of the gratuity will be. So, in the case of this, there are some exemptions. In the case of employee who is the employee of central government, the employee who is the employee of central government, the member of civil service, the member of local authority, or the member of defense service. If there is any employee who is the member of defense service, who is the member of civil service, who is the member of local authority, and who is the employee of central government, then the amount of the gratuity will be fully exempted. The amount of gratuity will be fully accepted. In the case of other employees, the other employees are classified into two parts. Number one, who are covered under the Gratuity Act, who are covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, and number two, the employee who are not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. The employee who are covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, and the employee who are covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. So first point, when the employee covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. So in the case, the amount of the exemption will be, the amount of the exempted gratuity will be, it will be least of the following. It will be least of the following. Number one, 20 lakh rupees. Number three, actual amount of gratuity received. Number two, actual amount of gratuity received. And number three, 15 days salary. 15 days salary based on last drawn salary. For for every completed year of service or part of the part of, but it should be more than 6 months. It should be more than 6 months. 15 days salary of each completed year or part of the year. For the purpose of this, the month will be 26 days. In the month, the days will be 26. Means 15 days out of 26 days. Means in a month, the days are 26. Second point, when the employees are not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. When the employees are not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act, who are not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. So in this case, the exemption amount will be least of the following. The exemption amount will be least of the following. Number one, 20 lakh rupees. Number two, actual amount of gratuity received. Actual amount of gratuity received. And number three, half month salary. half month salary, and it will be calculated on the basis of last 10 month average salary. Last 10 month average salary for each of the completed year. For each of the completed year. So this is the summary of such a point. This is the summary of gratuity. What amount will be taxable and what amount will be exempted. What amount will be taxable and what amount will be exempted. So for the full understanding, we will discuss an example so that we can clearly understand how to calculate exempted amount of gratuity and how to calculate taxable amount of gratuity. For the purpose of understanding of such concept, we will discuss an example so that we can easily understand such point, or we can easily understand how to calculate taxable amount of gratuity and exempted amount of gratuity. Mr. Ravi retired on 15th June. Mr. Ravi retired on 15th June after completion of service 26 years and 8 months. He has completed his service of 26 years and 8 months of service, and he received gratuity of rupees 15 lakh. He received the amount of gratuity of rupees 15 lakh. At the time of retirement, his salary was, this salary is at the time of retirement. Basic salary 50,000 rupees per month. Basic salary is 50,000 rupees per month. DNS allowance is 10,000 rupees per month. DNS allowance 10,000 rupees per month. 60% of which is the retirement benefit. 60% of which is a retirement benefit. Commission, it is 1% of turnover. Commission is 1% of turnover. Turnover in the last 12 months was 1 crore 20 lakh. 1 crore 20 lakh. And the bonus is 25,000 rupees per annum. The bonus is 25,000 rupees per annum. Compute his taxable gratuity. On the basis of such above information, there is a requirement to calculate his gratuity. Number one point is when he is a employee of private sector. He is a employee of private sector and he is covered by Payment of Gratuity Act. Number one point is he is a private employee and he is covered by Payment of Gratuity Act. Other employee point one. And number two is he is a private sector employee, but he is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. And number 3 point is he is a government employee. So on the basis of such example, we will discuss or we will compute the amount of gratuity which will be exempted and which will be taxable. Point number 1, where he is a private employee and he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act, and he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. Payment of Gratuity Act. So we will discuss it. There is a employee and he is Mr. Ravi. Mr. Ravi, he is the employee. Mr. Ravi, he is a private sector employee. He is the private sector employee, and he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act, and he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. Receive gratuity, received gratuity 15 lakh. He received the amount of gratuity 15 lakh rupees. He is received the amount of gratuity 15 lakh rupees. So in this case, the exempted amount will be exempted amount will be number 1 20 lakh, number 2 gratuity received which is 15 lakh, and number 3 15 days salary, 15 days salary 15 days salary on the basis of last drawn salary, on the basis of last drawn salary for each completed year and part thereof. It should be more than 6 months. Part thereof. So in this case, the exemption will be 20 lakh, number 2 15 lakh, and number 3 15 days salary. 15 divided by 26. It will be 15 divided by 26 because for the purpose of this, we will take 26 month as per the provision. The month of 26 days. The month of 26 days into last drawn salary is 50,000 basic plus 10,000 DA. 15,000 salary plus 10,000 is the amount of DA into 26 year completed plus 8 months, which is more than 6 months, then 27 years. 27 years. So 20 lakh rupees, 15 lakh actual amount received, and 15 days salary on the basis of last drawn salary for each of the completed year and part thereof if it is more than 6 months. Lower is exempted. Lower is exempted. So, number 1, the gratuity received at a time of retirement 15 lakh rupees and exemption will be 15 lakh or 20 lakh, and the last drawn salary 15 divided by 26 into last drawn salary is 60,000 into 27 year, which will be 9,34,615. 9,34,615, whichever is lower. So the lower is this one. The lower amount is, then the exempted amount will be, exempted amount is 9,34,615. So the taxable amount of gratuity will be, it will be 15 lakh minus 9,34,615. It is 5,65,385 rupees. The taxable amount, total amount received 15 lakh. Exempted amount of gratuity is 9,34,615 rupees. So the taxable amount will be, So the taxable amount will be 5,65,385 rupees. When the employee is a private company employee and he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. And he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. And he is covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972. So the taxable amount of gratuity will be 5,65,385 rupees. Point B. Point B. When the employee is a private company employee and he is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act, and he is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. So in this case, the what will be the exempted amount of gratuity and what will be the taxable amount of gratuity? What will be the exempted amount of gratuity and what will be the taxable amount of gratuity? Gratuity, the amount of gratuity received is 15 lakh rupees. The amount of gratuity is received 15 lakh rupees. 15 lakh rupees. And statutory limit is means the limit is 20 lakh. 20 lakh. And the third point is half month salary, which is based on last 10 months. Which is based on last 10 months. Proceeding the month of retirement for each of the completed year. There is each of the completed year. There is not for the part. Each of the completed year. So we will calculate it. Mr. Ravi, number two, Mr. Ravi, he is a private sector employee and he is not covered. He is not covered under the Payment of Gratuity Act. He is not covered. Payment of Gratuity Act. He received gratuity of rupees 15 lakh. He received gratuity 15 lakh rupees. So the exempted amount will be exempted amount of gratuity. Exempted amount of gratuity will be number one, gratuity received. Gratuity received. The exempted amount will be the first and second point are same. Number three, half month salary. It is half a month salary on the basis of last 10 month average salary for each of the completed year. For each of the completed year. So in this question, the limit is 20 lakh and the gratuity received is 15 lakh. Number third is half month salary. Is that it is 1 by 2. It is 1 by 2 into half month salary. Salary is 15,000 plus the amount of DA. But as per the note, it is yeah, as per the note, there was a note. Salary for the purpose of this basic plus DA. If it is provided in the term of employment of retirement benefit. So the employment of retirement benefit forming part of salary and commission forming part of salary and the amount of commission which is expressed as in fixed percentage of 10. It will also be included. Commission which is expressed in fixed percentage. It will also be included. So So the amount of so the amount will be the amount of salary will be for the period of 10 months, average of 10 months plus 10,000 into 60% into 10 months, because DA, which is for the retirement benefit, is only 60%, only 60%. And the amount of commission, 1% of 1% of 12, 1 crore 20 lakh, 1 crore 20 lakh, it is 1 crore 20 lakh for the 10-month average salary. 10-month average salary. The average will be 10-month average salary. It is into 10 divided by 12 into 26 years for the full years. For the full years. For the full year. So the amount will be 8 lakh. The amount will be 8 lakh 58,000. The amount will be 8 lakh 58,000 on the basis of such question. On the basis of such exemption, the amount will be 8 lakh 50,000. So the exempted amount will be least of the following. The exempted amount will be least of the following. So the least of the following, least is 8 lakh 58,000. 8 lakh 58,000 is the least amount. It is the least amount. So the taxable gratuity is it is 15 lakh minus 8 lakh 58,000 rupees. 8 lakh 58,000 rupees. So the gratuity taxable amount is 6 lakh 42,000. 6 lakh 42,000 is the amount which is taxable. Which is taxable in the hands of Ravi when he is government, when he is private employee, and he is not covered under the payment of gratuity, and he is not covered under the payment of gratuity act. So as per point 1, when he is covered under the payment of gratuity act, then the taxable amount is 5,65,385 rupees, and the exempted amount is 9,34,615 rupees. And as per the second point, when he is not covered by the Payment of Gratuity Act 1972, their exempted amount is 5,58,000, sorry, 8,58,000, and taxable amount is 6,42,000, and the taxable amount is 6,42,000 rupees. Now, when he is a government employee, when Mr. Ravi is the government employee, when Mr. Ravi is a government employee, so the total amount of gratuity will be exempted. The total amount of gratuity will be exempted. If there is any employee who is a government employee, whether it's central government employee, civil service employee, defense service employee, local authority employee, etc., then the amount of gratuity which is received by him will be exempted under section 10, subsection 10. So when he is a government employee, so the amount of the gratuity which is received by him of rupees 15 lakh, it will be fully exempted. It will be fully exempted from tax. So the taxable amount of gratuity will be 0 when he will be government employee. So on the basis of such example, we have understood how to calculate the taxable amount of gratuity and how we will calculate the exempted amount of gratuity. How we will calculate the taxable amount of gratuity and how we will calculate the exempted amount of gratuity. Taxable and exempt. So on the basis of such class, we have understood, we have explained the provision of gratuity, what will be the gratuity, and what will be the taxable amount of gratuity, and what will be the exempted amount of gratuity. The gratuity is the payment which is made by the employer to the employee in the respect of his services. So it will be taxable under the head of salary, and the provision of gratuity are properly discussed by us in this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. Okay, bye bye and have a nice day.